Hey, everybody. Happy Saturday. We are back with another Goju Tech Talk. And it's Saturday night, around 11 p.m. my time. So perfect time to nerd out. And we're going to continue from our discussion yesterday. I've actually removed the first 4 or 5 things that we had, and we just have these few items left. And there's a new one that I added related to some of this stuff with this guy, one of my all-time favorite super nerds, super engineers. But before we get into that, let's quickly review what we're going to go over tonight. And this should be, I think, pretty fun for those of us that are the super nerds. So feel free to go grab yourself your tea or your popcorn or your sodas. I've got mine over here, my Coke Zero. And we're going to have a nice little Saturday evening chat on neck cooling thingamabobs, this guy, Andor, which is incredible, and how AI is, I don't know, at its core, just another form of automation. It's not something I think that we need to be afraid of and panic about, because we've been doing automation for a very long time. And this is just kind of the way of the world. And Linus is going to talk about this a little bit. And we'll springboard from that. So let's dive in. Let's start with our neck cooling thingamabob. So I'm wearing it right now. It's this guy. And on one of these sides, maybe it's this side. Is it this side? It has this little digital display, and it has a touch screen. And I also wanted to share that, as I think all of you know, while I may do some reviews of products that are paid, as long as I can say what I really want to say about them, I'm not going to do any paid promotion for things that they don't give me the freedom to say what I really think. I want to start by saying I'm not affiliated with these guys at all, and I'll always tell you if I am, so you know if this is a paid thing or if this is Goju just talking about cool tech that he loves. This I actually found from Flossie Carter talking about this, and I don't even know how I got onto it, but this is basically it. This is like a neck cooling device. Let's just look at it on Amazon so you can see I bought this myself, and it's a little expensive. It's about $300. This Ranvu #1 cooling air conditioning thing, Ice 3 AI neck air. This is a long name. Wow. 7,000 milliamp hour. What is this? 30 hour. Yeah, I don't think this is 30 hour, guys. This is a little bit of, and there's like, you're about an order of magnitude off, guys, based on my early anecdotal experience. Maybe they're talking about 30 hours in idle time or something, but this does not last 30 hours. Just to level set here. I don't know why. That's very strange. I'm not sure what they're trying to say here. But if you folks from Ranvu are watching this episode, I love your device. I'm actually going to talk about how great it is. But I think you're probably doing yourself a little bit of a disservice here, because there's no way this comes anywhere close to 30 hours. I get probably 3 to 4 hours when it's not plugged in. And it's actually plugged in right now. I've got like the cable in the back here. and I've been using it pretty much nonstop since I got it yesterday. So maybe go in and edit this. So I think your product is great, but you might be doing yourself a little bit of a disservice by losing some trust by sort of false marketing. That aside, I want to say that this thing is incredible. It is really, really fantastic. I'm just trying to find out down here where they're going to talk about the duration for use. See if they mention this anywhere. Yeah, not sure. But okay, we can look at some of these photos here. So let's see. One, yeah, I think that not that this matters too much, but I think it does actually look pretty cool. I mean, for a neck, like I don't feel as though I'm wearing some cheap plastic thing around my neck. I think that the build quality is quite good. It is pretty sturdy, and I think it's well manufactured, well put together, pretty nice device. There's some people I think that are saying, I don't know about this in 105 degrees. I can tell you that in Northern California, where we're maybe in the, I think we maybe got it where I am in the 80s or so, it works brilliantly. Whether or not it's going to work fantastically if you get to like the 90s or above, I'm not sure. Some people have made comments, but for 80, maybe 80 to 90 degree weather, I can say from my own experience already that it does really fantastic. And from my perspective, there's two main things that this thing does that I've used already. It also does heat as well. I haven't tried that yet because generally I get too hot, and so having something that cools me off is what I would use this for. But some people I think are using the heating as like a neck massage or to relax their neck muscles. I also noticed that you can actually put this, or at least I can put it on my legs. And the reason for that is as you're using this device, one of the key things that it has is these cooling panels. So it does two main things. It has these cooling panels on the inside that are phenomenal. In my opinion, this is the game-changing thing. It also has these fans. And so like right now, the fans are on like the lowest setting. I can still feel them a little bit. They kind of go up and down, which is cool, but I don't really care that much. But these cooling panels, I don't know how this is able to do its thing, but it is cold. I have it at the max setting of like 61 degrees Fahrenheit, I think is as low as it gets. And when I first put it on, it's almost startling how cold it is. And so the reason why I want to mention the legs is that, as I understand it, one of the best ways to cool your body off is you put something cold on your skin that has the best chance to create blood flow throughout your body. So basically what you want is you want an artery. You want a very large vein. And so on your neck, you essentially have your jugular. And so this vein, essentially, as I understand it, I'm not a medical doctor, but, I read, and the blood is flowing from here throughout your entire body. So if you have something cold on it, then that spreads to your entire body and it cools you down. Same thing with your inner thigh, is you have a main artery. You also have one under your armpit. I haven't tried that, but it works really well, at least for me, on my leg. So, for example, if I'm on a conference, I actually think I did this I did think I did this yesterday, is I was on a conference call and I didn't want to have this on my neck because it was like a pretty professional type of thing. So I just had it on my leg and it was cooling me down brilliantly. So the reason why I got this is, one, I run pretty hot. Two, let's just be honest, I'm a bit of a tech nerd and I love small technology. Like I just have a lot of gadgets and stuff. And I'm real curious about new advances in things that could just, I don't know, make my life slightly better. And for me personally, the house that I'm in, this house was built like in the 1940s, and I love it. It's great, but it has really bad ventilation. I mean, like really bad. And the general airflow in the house, especially during the summer, is not super great because of the ventilation. It doesn't hit certain rooms, like my bedroom or my office that I'm in right now. There's certain spaces that it does hit very well. Like, for example, when Taylor comes to visit, he has his office in the main room. It hits that area really well. The only problem is I don't really work in that room. So on top of that, because the ventilation is so poor, the actual cost of the AC is just ridiculously high. And I think that all of us probably don't want to waste money carelessly. And so if I'm running the AC in the summer, it's easily over $500, $600, $700 a month because the ventilation is so bad. And basically the AC just stays on the whole time. It doesn't ever get cool enough to where it cools the house down and then it turns off. So it's just running nonstop. And one, that's not like super great for the environment, but two, it's just a waste of money. So I saw Flossie Carter talking about this, and then I read some reviews, and I got this, and I have to say that this is, like, I literally have been using this since I got it, I think yesterday, basically nonstop. And I mean nonstop as in when I've taken it off, I've put it over here on its stand and I keep it running because it can act as like a portable fan. I think it's not like super effective, but basically you can still be using it even if you're not wearing it. I do think, though, that wearing it and these inner cooling plates are a game changer. If you're someone that runs hot and maybe other people that you live with, they don't run so hot, and so you can't turn the AC down because you're going to get yelled at or in trouble, or you're trying to save money. I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm going to save hundreds of dollars in my electric bill this summer just by wearing this thing. And I think I'm probably even going to be more comfortable. Like, I'm wearing it now, and it's actually getting so cold that I may just take it off for the night after this because it's making me too cold. So that being said, I wanted to share this because I've tried a few of these things in the past, and I have not really been impressed. That I think that the ones that I've tried, maybe they were just kind of cheap. I'm not sure. But here's this 30-hour battery life. I don't know. It does not have a 30-hour battery life, just to give you clarity. When I'm running it, I think people talk about this in the reviews. When I was running it yesterday, just off of the internal 7,000 milliamp hour battery, I think I got 3 to maybe 4 hours, which is good, which is great, right? but it's not. You're an order of magnitude off here. So don't believe this. I don't know where this number is coming from. And by the way, I did the firmware update, so it's not that. And I wasn't even running it at full velocity, right? Like you can control the fan level, and I think you can control the cooling level. So I did have it cranked all the way to the coolest setting for the plates. Maybe what they're talking about is, I don't know what they're talking about. But so don't go in thinking you're going to get 30 hours. You're not. You're probably going to get maybe like 3 or 4. But I think that that's fine. The other thing, at least for me, that's fine. The other thing that is pretty great about this is it does essentially pass through charging. So, or whatever this is called. The idea basically is that you can be charging this while it's running. And so it just basically is running forever. So right now I have it actually plugged in the USB in the back here. And so it's like I have it on my phone here. And yeah, you can see that it's, I don't know. Yeah, let's see if I can. Okay, you probably can't read this, but it's showing that the ambient temperature in my room right now is 75 degrees, which is probably right. It's cooling me at 61 degrees Fahrenheit, which I definitely feel it on my neck. I mean, again, if you run hot like I do, oh boy, these internal plates, it's literally like taking a soda from the fridge that's super cold and just putting on your neck and just having it stay essentially at that temperature the whole time. That's literally what it feels like. Like no nonsense here. I was actually really skeptical that this was just going to be a fan unit, and I don't even actually care about the fan. It's these intercooling things. So if you're like me and you want something to keep you cooler, this could be a game changer for you. Some people have said that using this in really hot temperature, like if you're working construction and you're inside of a very closed off house that's musky or something, or super humid, and it's over 100 degrees, this may not cool you down the way that you're hoping. I think that that's probably true. But if you're in like a slightly warm temperature, again, in the 80s or 90s, I think that it can probably help you significantly. I used to, just as an aside, when I used to work at Intel, I would go into the office and they would keep the office temperature about 75 degrees, which for me is a little warm. And I remember I would just be sitting there sweating, and I just got used to it. But boy, if I would have had this at the time, I think it would have made that office experience so much better. So anyway, I am 1,000% sold on this. It's not perfect. And it also has like this heart rate thing. I don't know. Maybe let's see. Is it doing that for me right now? Yeah, it's telling me, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at it right now. I think I've got the smartware thing, and I think it's telling, or it was telling me, it just switched to show me the temperature outside. Okay, I think that it's telling me that my heart rate is about 75, I think. And that it was keeping track of my steps, I guess, just walking around the house. I was doing around 1,000 steps. And there's some other stuff in here that I'm not sure what it's keeping track of. But the app itself is pretty cool. It works on Android, I think, pretty well. And yeah, so... Oh, and also, yeah, I think that it has this ability to, you can take calls and it can play music. I haven't done either of those things because I don't really care about using it in that capacity. But so there's a lot of functionality, I guess, is what I'm saying. Uh, so anyway, from my perspective, if you run hot or you really like small electronics, also maybe if you run cold, that people are saying, I think, in the comments that the heating aspect of it they really love. And so you see, like, some people are kind of a little down on it, and some people are like very much, yeah, uh, very, very much a fan of it. And my take is, I think that it's phenomenal, at least for my use case. And yeah, so I thought I saw something about how people were saying it doesn't work in really hot temperatures. Maybe it's this guy. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at what he has to say. Just take it. He got this, I think, last year. After long-term consideration with experiences of buying more than 5 neck air conditioners, I think I can provide an objective feedback. I'm one of the construction workers in Texas. The temperature outdoors can easily reach over 100 degrees Fahrenheit and very humid in Texas. Very uncomfortable, like being in a sauna. I've been looking for something that can help me, and I've tried many neck coolers, but they're completely ineffective in Texas weather until I found the AICE 3 from my colleague. Cooling ability. I think this is the key to its superiority over other products on the market. Its cooling plate is very effective. This is what I'm talking about. The cooling plate is insanely awesome. The fan, cool, but it's this plate thing. I like, as a technologist, I'm fascinated by this because I don't know how this is possible. I thought that this type of technology was like you needed Freon or something, and that's why like AC in houses and stuff is very particular on, you need to have like an external venting to push the air, like the hot air out, and there's like all these constraints. And so whatever the crazy technology is that they figured out, it's, yeah, on the next level. Okay. With the powerful fan that surrounds next, it can cool me down fast. Battery capacity. After comparing with other neck coolers, I found the battery capacity is largest with 7,000 milliamp hours, which can work for the whole day, while others 5,000 at most, which obviously cannot achieve the battery capacity. Easy to wear. It seems to have a technology that allows the machine to automatically fit the skin after wearing it. I think it's the coolest thing. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but yeah, it seems to fit me just fine. Its comfortable design and lightness make it easy to use without any burden. Yeah, I agree with that. Touchscreen is absolutely top quality and supports blind operation. Okay, not sure about that, but sure. My children like playing it as a toy. I can't always grab my phone. Yeah, so that's true. I think that there is there is probably a way. I haven't tried to master how to use it without touching it. I mean, use it without looking at it, but I suspect once you memorize where the things are, you probably could. The speaker quality is also good and definitely meets the basic needs. There even exists the heart rate and blood oxygen sensors, which are great, and I can see the data in real time. The app pushes new firmware versions, like my phone did, and the customer support is absolutely excellent. They provide the most timely, blah, blah, blah. It has become a necessity for me. I recommend it to my colleagues, and they love it too. It's a little expensive, but I think you get what you paid for. So that's kind of how I feel about this, is that it's a little expensive, but if this is something that can help you, like again, if you run a little hot, I think that this is a crazy piece of technology that works exceptionally well. The the cooling plates is probably the part that is the most mind-boggling to me. Yeah, and then you can see like it'll go in this cooling mode. I guess this heating mode will tell you temperature outside. This I think is the battery remaining. I think maybe this is the steps. I don't know. And I don't know what the maybe this is the heart rate and maybe that's the temperature. Yeah, I'm not sure. But so it's got cool little information and stuff. All right. So that's about all I wanted to share about this. If you want like a deeper review on it, I think Flossie Carter has more to say. And I did look at many of these other ones and they looked interesting. And you can see that there are many that are less expensive. Like this one appears to be maybe one of the most expensive, but after looking at some of the reviews, I think it was Flossie that was basically saying he was saying he's used maybe like 10 of them, and this one is just hands down the best. And I tend to find his reviews are pretty on point. So, yeah, I was sold. Okay. With that, we're going to take a quick pause so I can refill soda and stuff. And you can do the same, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, folks, we're back. Me and the Diggity. Hey, Diggity, you want to come say hello? No, he's watching the door. Okay, our next topic, we'll hit Andor last. Our next topic is to talk a little bit about AI in the context of maybe it just being another form of automation. And to start off this discussion, I thought we'd listen to Linus being interviewed and some of his thoughts and this other gentleman's thoughts on how they feel about AI, and then I'll kind of chime in on what I think. So let's give this a whirl. Hopefully this comes out okay.
Today, as Jim proved to us, without talking about artificial intelligence and large language models. I typically say artificial intelligence is autocorrect on steroids, because all a large language model does is it predicts what's the most likely next word that you're going to use, and then it extrapolates from there. So not really very intelligent, but obviously the impact that it has on our lives, on the reality we live in is significant. Do you think we will see LLM written code that is submitted to you as a pull request?
I'm convinced it's going to happen. Yes, and it may well be happening already. Maybe on a smaller scale where people really use it more as a help in writing code. But it's clearly something where automation has always helped people write code. I mean, this is not anything new at all. We don't write machine code anymore. We don't even write assembler. And now we're moving on from C to Rust. So I don't see this as something as revolutionary as all the news talk is every day about AI. It's not an area I obviously work with. I'm still very low level. I got into kernels because I love the low level hardware details, and that's why I'm still there.
But so you say you expect this can help people write code, this can help people get started. But then if we look at the previous conversation and the challenges around code reviews and maintaining, so do you think that large language models will get to the point that they can help us review code, that they can help maintain subsystems?
I hope, because that's certainly one of the areas which I see them really being able to shine, to find the obvious stupid bugs. Because I mean, how many people here are actually programmers in this room? So a fair number. A lot of the bugs I write, a lot of the bugs I see other people write, they're not like subtle bugs. A lot of them are just the stupid bugs that you did not think about, and you don't need any kind of higher intelligence to find them. But having tools that warn, I mean, we have compilers that warn about the obvious, really obvious ones, but having LLMs that warn about slightly more subtle cases where it may just say, this pattern does not look like the regular pattern. Are you sure this is what you mean?
Yeah. So for those of you that tuned in to the last episode, I could not agree more with Linus. And in fact, Mentor found this in the Nautica code. I missed it. Obviously, I don't think I would introduce a crash bug into my game's system on purpose, or at least I've never done that in the past. And as we saw before, like last night, right? We're in Visual Studio right now. Like this is the paid version. This isn't Visual Code, like the free version. This is the one that costs like a reasonable amount of money, and you can see it's not complaining about this at all. And going back to what Linus is saying, having an AI or a slightly more advanced system that's just saying, hey, yeah, this looks a little strange. Did you really mean to write this? I think that can make a huge difference, because these types of things are often missed by humans. And if they're missed by the person writing the code, then they could be missed by the person that's reviewing the code. We know from experience that humans get tired, and code reviews are not perfect. And oftentimes, like, it's just the whole iteration process is that people will start looking at some piece of code and then they'll progressively get tired. Also, code reviews are not necessarily the thing that I think most developers are jumping up and down, screaming, saying, oh, I can't wait to do more code reviews. I think part of it is people see it as like, this is something I have to do, but it's not even really my job, and it's slowing me down from the things that I need to be doing. So if you have an AI system that, for example, lo and behold, could identify things that you were doing wrong in the source and do it automatically, and then help you potentially fix those things, I think that could be super valuable. And so I absolutely agree with Linus here. I think, as per usual, his insight is pretty profound. And I also really like the way that Linus talks about how in the media there is this insane amount of hype that I really dislike. There was, I think, the CEO from Replit, if that's how you say it, was quoted saying that AI is going to replace all software developers or something now, which is very hypey. And I think, actually, just to be clear, I think that his comment was meant as a cover for him and their company having to lay off something like 50% of their staff. And rather than focusing on their declining business, they instead are trying to pivot the narrative to say that basically, oh, it's not that their business is declining, although if you look at the data, it very clearly is. But rather, it's that we don't need software developers anymore, and that's why we're able to cut our staff. And since we've had these automated systems, we just use them for software development. Like, this is, I think, in some sense, completely disingenuous. That's not really what's going on. And many of the other folks that actually are being intellectually honest and responsible, I think, are not saying these things. Like, even the CEO of GitHub has gone on record multiple times saying that their GitHub Copilot thing is not going to replace programmers. I think even forget who, maybe it was Microsoft, maybe it was Meta, coming and saying that software developers are not going to be replaced by these AI systems. And I think that that's exactly right. I think that all we're doing is we are removing as much minutia from programmers as possible, and programming and building real world systems is so incredibly hard, and it's so multifaceted that if we can get help on some of the stuff that the systems, the AI systems or other systems can handle for us, we should take that help and utilize that. Just like Linus is saying, we don't write machine code anymore, and then we don't write assembly anymore. I mean, some of us do occasionally, but not very often. And like, I think he was saying we're potentially even going away from C to Rust. That one I'm not entirely sure about, but you can see that we are trying to level up, and we're doing this so at a large, from a like a 10,000 foot view, we're largely doing this so we can be more productive, that we can get more done in a smaller amount of time with the same level or better quality. Like, that's why a lot of people, I think, code in Python and JavaScript today rather than coding in C or C++. It's not that you can't do those things in C and C++. I think in many cases you can. It's just that it might take 10 times as much code. So if you can do it at 10% of the volume of code in languages like Python and JavaScript, where performance is not like super paramount, there's other things that potentially are larger forms of latency, like the internet communication, for example, then yeah, I mean, maybe those systems are fine. Also, if you're doing just like a simple prototyping, I think that you don't necessarily need this thing to be running as fast as an operating system. So why not prototype it in Python and then verify that this is like good? And then once you get to that point, then you can move forward and say, okay, now we're going to rewrite this in a super efficient language like C or C++. And in fact, this is how a lot of the machine learning models are actually built today. Is we'll do early prototypes in Python, and then once we have some kind of validation, we then will re-optimize or rewrite those models in C or C++, so they're significantly faster, and then we'll deploy that, right? So the higher order bit here is, I think it's unfortunate how legacy media and sensational media is positioning AI, and largely, just to be totally honest about this as much as I can be, knowing that I'm going to try to tell it to you as straight as I possibly can, given what I know. And so just like I'm going to tell you, I love this thing is super great if you want something that's going to cool you down, I'm also going to tell you when I think that legacy media or hype media is, I think, basically lying to you, to all of us. And I think that they are. I think that they're doing it for various reasons. One, a lot of their revenue is tied to their ability to present sensational news that people will click on because it's sensational and it's jarring, and they want to get the eyeballs, and they get those eyeballs, and then they make their revenue from ad dollars. Right? That's how almost all of the media companies work today. And so how do they get those eyeballs? I mean, I think it's unfortunate. I think part of the reason why people are trusting legacy media less and less is they're getting wise to this manipulation and this level of it's deceptive. It's like a form of deceit. They're not really telling you the truth. And I think people, as I've said, and I've heard from people much smarter than me, people are gullible, but people are not stupid. So what I mean by that is you can convince someone of something initially because people want to believe. And so if I, for example, told you that this thing is awesome, all of you might, based on your trust with me and this channel, you might believe me. Now, if this turns out to be garbage, and then I promote another product and that is also garbage, after some period of time, you're not going to trust me anymore. You're going to be like, Goju just talks about these things and it's like he's not telling us the truth. And so the point is, like, you might be gullible to believe me at first. And I actually don't think that that's gullibility. I think that that's just fostering goodwill. But after you have enough data where someone is sort of being a bad actor, people will wise up and be like, I just don't trust this news outlet anymore. They're just promoting whatever company that they're working out these deals with, and they don't share the news a truthful way. So instead, I think what's happening, and I think this is an example of this, could very well be Goju Tech Talk or other channels on YouTube, or the movement away from legacy media, is that people, I think, are starting to trust voices in the community that are shown to be essentially of high integrity over a prolonged period of time. And then those become essentially their sources of news or information, because they know that they can trust this person or these people. And they also understand what their beliefs are. So they know that this might be slightly slanted to the left or to the right or to the middle, and they go in knowing this, but they also know that the person is going to try to tell them the truth as much as they possibly can, and that this person cannot be bought out, for example, or maybe they can, right? Like there's another professor at the university where I teach that I used to listen to his YouTube channel, and I think many of us did. And what I saw over time is that the information that he was presenting, especially when it came to sponsorships, seemed to be very disingenuous, that it just was lacking. And this is over a long period of time. It was starting to lack the authentic data that this person seemed to be presenting it as, and it raised questions about authenticity, integrity. And so then what happened over time is many of us, we just stopped watching. I will literally make sure that this channel is not recommended now, because I was gullible and I wanted to believe, but then I started collecting so much data that then it was obvious that this is not trustworthy anymore, and so I'm not going to listen to it. So what I think will happen, and I think it's already happening, is there's a shift that's emerging, that people are going to move away from legacy media that is being sort of bought by big tech companies. Instead, they're going to listen to others that are small community members that are of high integrity. Like, pick your favorite YouTuber or streamer, and then they're going to listen to what that person has to say, or those people have to say, and ignore the information from legacy media. And the byproduct of this is, I think, exactly what's happening in the game community today, that Asmund Gold talks about quite a bit, is the game journalists have essentially, they basically forced their way out of a position of influence, because they've decided to make their reviews and feedback of games more about their political views than the actual games. And so people have lost trust in them. And I think that that's absolutely correct. Like, when I want to find out if a movie is good, I want to be able to go to a review site and then hear what people say about the movie. I don't care about their political views, their personal views, issues that they have with the actors or actresses or whatever. I just want to know, is this a good movie? Because if it is, I want to watch it. And so, for example, what I'll often do for any movie or any show like Andor, I'll go to Rotten Tomatoes and I will ignore the critic score. I don't care what the critics say anymore. I just care about what the audience says. Because what I've seen is that the critics, in many cases, it feels like they're being bought. Is they have some sort of negotiation, and I see them rate movies that I found to be abysmal as really, really high. They've scored them really high, but then the audience will score these movies or these shows really low. And what I find is, generally speaking, my opinions of the movies and the shows will much more approximately align with the audience scores than the critic scores. And again, I think part of the reason why is that the audience scores will be people that are actually watching it to try to get a sense of if it's good or bad. And when they leave feedback, very much like the people that I think are leaving feedback about this product, just like I was with all of you, is they're just trying to tell you what they think about their product. There's no hidden agenda. There's no inside deal with like these guys or these guys' competitors where I'm going to say bad things about them because their buddies are paying me a large amount of money to just talk them down because I have influence. Like, and this stuff goes on, right? Like this stuff is happening, as we saw with the whole OpenAI stuff, where the legacy media is like rewriting the history all on the same day, right? Like there's a very fascinating thing that these articles all came out on the same day saying that Sam Altman was not fired by YC. Like that is a very fascinating phenomenon that a number of media outlets would universally decide on their own that the topic of today will be about how Sam Altman wasn't fired by YC specifically on this date, and they would all release an article about that topic on that same date. Again, people are gullible, but people are not stupid. Once you start connecting the dots, I think people are going to quickly see like what the truth is. So going back to what Linus is talking about is, I think that he's absolutely right that a lot of the news media is they're selling AI like it's this thing that's going to rewrite the very fabric of the universe. And keep in mind, like, I teach this at the university. This is something that I love and I've been working on for the last maybe 20 years of my life. And not only have I taught this at multiple universities, I run a company that's all in this space. Like, I absolutely love this area, but I think that there's a way to breach this topic where you can talk about the advantages that it brings in its ability to do things like this and help us be better software developers, improving software developer productivity and improving the quality of the code that we're writing. And it has nothing to do with replacing humans. It's just one more level of automation in a slew of things that we're doing already for automation to accelerate the development of software, because ultimately software runs the world. And that's not me just saying this. Pick a domain, any domain, and ask yourself, is software playing a large role in that domain? And I can tell you pretty much definitively, whatever the domain is, it is. Music plays a huge role in that. This whole video recording stuff, there's a huge role in that. The AI stuff that we're building, software is the foundation of almost all of the things that are happening today. Stock market, Software is the thing that's doing all the tickers and keeping track of like all the trending information. Movies, the whole green room thing, like software. That's like, so we could just go through the list and we see very quickly that Mark Andreessen's comment about software eating the world is, that he wrote in the Wall Street Journal like 10 plus years ago. I think he was onto something there. This is also why I studied computer science and computer engineering. It seemed clear to me that computers, both software and hardware, are one of the most disruptive things in the history of the human race. At least that's my perspective. And you can see that because computers are essentially ubiquitous in almost all of the technology that runs in the world today. Computers are in our TVs, computers are in our computers are in our cars. We have computer chips that are like put into our pets for like GPS things. We have computers in our thermostats, computers in our microwaves, in our ovens, you name it, they're everywhere. And what runs on computers? Software, right? So now you have a new technology, which is AI. And AI is going to help us with a whole bunch of things. The part that I'm really interested in is it helping with software. Do I think that AI somehow displaces software? So like software is fundamentally not done the way that it is done today now that we have AI? No, not at all. That's sort of like saying that we've invented a new form of transportation and all the other forms of transportation suddenly are no longer valid. So let's take a moment here and let's walk through the evolution of transportation and see if this has happened. Okay, so let's start with something as simple as shoes. There was a time, sometime long ago, where humans didn't have shoes. And then we figured out we're going to invent shoes. Why? Because it's going to allow us to move between places in a way that's like going to improve our productivity and our quality, right? It goes back to those two things. And so then we have shoes. Does this mean that people don't walk barefoot from time to time? No. There are lots of people that still walk barefoot. I walk barefoot all the time in my house on a daily basis. Okay, so shoes did not displace the idea of being barefoot. They do help me when I'm outside of my house considerably. Okay, so now let's go to maybe the next leap forward. Let's just have it be the wheel. Okay, so we have a wheel now, and so you have like a cart, or you have a bicycle, or you have something that uses a wheel for transportation. So did the invention of a bicycle displace the need for shoes? No. We still have shoes. Do people still walk, even though bicycle is like fairly known to be a better form of transportation in terms of efficiency and potentially quality? No, people still walk. There's a lot of people that actually prefer walking over bicycle, even though we know that the bicycle is going to get us distances that are significantly larger, maybe 10x or more than just walking. And they'll do it at a significantly less energy depletion rate than if we were to walk or run that same distance. Yet we still walk. Why is that? We like walking. There are downsides to a bicycle, right? Like you have to have it. Tires can get flat, this type of thing. Okay, so now we have the bicycle. Let's keep going though, all right? Now let's jump forward to the automobile. So we invented the automobile, and now we have cars. Do cars displace automobiles and shoes? No. People still use bicycles. People still use shoes. Why? Because there are lots of things that automobiles can't do very well that these other things can. And so what you start to see as you move forward and forward, let's again keep going on this trend just to get to two other forms of transportation, which I think are really paramount to understand the fact that automation or advances technology don't necessarily displace prior tech. The other two that I think are minimally worth mentioning are boats. that are traveling on water. Fantastic form of transportation. The primary way that we move large and very heavy objects from continent to continent is on boats. And there's many reasons why we do this. Even though we have airplanes which were invented after boats, and the same objects could be moved using airplanes, and they could be moved faster than boats. Why do we still use boats? Boats are more cost effective. Boats can move larger quantities and like more dense objects with significantly less cost than airplanes can. Airplanes can move them faster, but it's the cost effectiveness of boats. So how do we move most of our items for import export between countries? Boats. We use boats. We still will occasionally use airplanes for certain things like FedEx and this type of thing. But if you're talking about like massive transportation of oil or automobiles that are coming from Europe to the United States or vice versa, this type of thing, it's boats. So you look at the same type of thing with AI. And this is the part that like the hype media is not talking about at all, is they're not looking at the economics. The economic implications, as we discussed before, there's like three major areas to think about AI in that are often overlooked. There's the economic impact that it has, which is significantly larger than what most people are talking about today. And I'll tell you honestly what it looks like. And it's not even economically feasible for large language models to be used in most cases. What's happening right now is investors and large companies are absorbing that cost mostly to get adoption from consumers, so they will be able to essentially try to commoditize this. And the idea is that if you get a large enough adoption at scale, then the cost of delivering this will be commoditized to where you'll mass produce the vehicles that deliver the goods so that the cost of delivering the goods decreases significantly. Okay, this is the whole idea of like macroeconomics and supply and demand. The problem with this in terms of AI is that we've already hit the power wall when it comes to computing. And so what this basically means is you're not going to get a 10 gigahertz computer that's running on your desktop or that's your laptop. Why? Because the thermodynamics of this don't make sense in the physical world. If you cranked up the clock speed, first of all, you have resistance on electrical wires that limits the actual speed of throughput. If you're sticking with electrical throughput rather than optical or photonics, right? So photonics is significantly faster, but it's far more expensive. And you see some examples of that are like people moving to fiber optics for networking. Like, yes, that's why we're doing it. It's much faster than like electrical. The problem though is it's far more expensive. So the first piece is that electrical transmissions don't have the speed capabilities that like optical stuff does. So that's the first inhibitor. The second is electrical throughput produces heat, and the heat needs to be dissipated in the physical world. Otherwise, things melt. That's why you have laptops that will get so hot that the system will just shut down because they're like overclocked, or they don't have proper heat dissipation with the fans based on where it's positioned, and they can't dissipate the heat. And the system will basically say, I'm going to melt to the ground if I don't shut this system off. So what does this have to do with all this AI stuff? If we can't crank up the clock speed on these processors to make them more effective, then how are the economics of the AIs going to naturally come down, right? It's not about scale. We've already built computing systems at scale. There are some advances that are happening in the space of the GPU world, but largely that's still economically not feasible. This is useful for maybe training systems, but if you're going to do large scale inference across the world and you want it to work like on the far edge, you're not going to want a 300-watt GPU to do inference on the thermal sensor that you have controlling the temperature in your house. It doesn't make sense, right? It would cost more money to do the inference for the GPU than it would to actually run the sensor that is controlling the temperature. You could just put a simple heuristic in there that's hand coded, then have an AI system. So, how is this all relevant to the world of AI? We're living largely in an era today where there is a new disruptive technology that's coming out, and that is our advances in artificial intelligence that are helping us move things forward, and they are truly a revolutionary technology, very much like the internet. However, what's happening right now, in my mind, with legacy media is they're being massively overhyped, largely because big tech and some of the crazy sort of investments that are going on in capitalistic society is trying to position this so they can make large amounts of money off of this nascent technology that is like the talk of the town. And that's what's happening, right? Like, for example, with windsurf, I think being acquired for $3.5 billion by OpenAI. Like, how does that make any kind of sense? It's just like a bidding war out there. Like, I don't think anyone thinks that the economics of that deal make any kind of sense. But in the market of just trying to leapfrog one company over another, you basically are just throwing as much money at it as you can, hoping that you can control the market. And then if you can control the market, then the idea is you'll have so much adoption that the cost that you paid will essentially be amortized over a prolonged period of time after you have like gained control of that market for so many years. You basically are offsetting the initial cost of the acquisition, and it's as it's amortized over like the next 10 years. Right. This is how like high interest loans work, and why banks will give loans to like normal people like you and me, which seems initially crazy that they give you hundreds of thousands of dollars that you don't have. It's because they're going to make interest over a prolonged period of time. And so in the end, they're going to get 2 times or 3 times their original investment. It's the same thing with this stuff. The problem, though, is that when you look at the economics of AI, specifically when it comes to language models, and you look at the power wall that we've hit with hardware already, it's not a problem that can be solved without potentially like quantum computing. What this means is we essentially need new types of AI architecture to solve this problem in a way that is economically feasible. This is part of the reason why we created Merly and the Mentor AI technology. Is it doesn't use large language models. It doesn't rely on large neural networks. Not because I dislike neural networks. I've been teaching neural network architecture for 20 years now. I started when I was a grad student at CU Boulder and continued to do this at Penn, a little bit at MIT, a little bit at dabbled a little bit at Berkeley, did it at Intel Labs, and now do it at the university I'm at today. I still teach neural network architecture. Neural networks are incredibly valuable, but they're not the only way to do machine learning. What the hype media would try to convince you of today, though, is that that is the only way to do AI, and that's just fundamentally false. There are many ways to do artificial intelligence or machine learning, more accurately called machine learning, and those are the technologies that we need to lean on to actually make machine learning, artificial intelligence economically feasible. It's not through larger and larger language models. But if you look at big tech, in particular, the Googles, the Metas, the Amazons, the Microsofts in the world, it makes a ton of sense for them to double down on language models because they can essentially own that space where individual people like you and me can't train large language models on our own because we don't have $100 million to invest in the data center compute. And so what does this do? It essentially creates a market that can be totally controlled by big tech. That's an incredibly powerful proposition for them. This is also why a lot of people were really confused when Meta came out and released their Llama models and made it open source. And people were like, oh my gosh, it levels the playing field. But again, if you read the fine print for like the licensing that actually exists in the Llama models, you'll see that once you reach a certain capacity of usage, then Meta has like the ability to start claiming royalties on any profits that you make. And I think that it's not even defined in the licensing agreement for the Llama models on what the royalties will be. It's actually a really interesting corporate strategy for Meta. Like, again, if you're thinking that Meta is doing this because they're some wholesome company and they're like so great in, fostering goodwill and all of this, I'd like to remind you that Zuckerberg was one of the first people that rewrote essentially the privacy rules and control of the data on Facebook that basically did this in a very covert way that changed it so the data that you were uploading to Facebook, which initially was your data, was now owned and controlled by Facebook. It's the same guy. So if that guy is going to make that kind of covert change to where now all your data is owned by them, why would they suddenly become like the super altruistic company that's just like helping the world? Like, there's a pattern here, guys. Like, let's not get confused about what some of the big tech goals are. And I'm not saying that all big tech is like this, but at the end of the day, in a capitalist market, like, you still need to make money. And so some people, I think, are gonna keep some form of ethics at the forefront of their business model, and they're going to do things that are going to make them profits, but also do things in a way that is like ethically sound. And others, I think, will not do that. They'll decide that the most important thing are profits and returns, quarterly gains, year-over-year gains, and the ethical implications of things are only things that they have to necessarily adhere to if it's something that can be enforced from a legal perspective, which is pretty crazy. It's not super great that we're getting to this point, but we are in some sense to this point. So anyway, I could continue along this path for hours, and I don't want to do that because I'll probably get to the point. I probably have already said a couple things that I probably shouldn't say, but what the heck? It's how I really feel. And if Meta has a problem with that, like with them doing some pretty disingenuous things, then, maybe you should just stop doing bad things. Also, while we're talking about Meta, hey guys, like, I don't know what's going on here with React Native, but if anybody from Meta is watching this, I want to just show you something here. So, like, if we walk back in time, so this is, okay, I'm going to go to the current state of the code. This is the current state of the code based on what Mentor has. So there's obviously more time that has passed since, March of 2025. This is our last snapshot. Okay, but look at this. There's 124 new anomalies that have showed up between March of 2025 and December of 2024. That's 3 months. In 3 months, they literally increased the number of anomalies by just it's like 30%. And if you look at so now I'm using the arrows to walk back in time. If you look at the growth of anomalies and the trends, I mean, yes, this is a big one right here, which is, what is this, June of 2024. So it's probably this one right here. Yeah, it's this point right here. This is a big jump, right? So that's not good. But you can see that these are all relatively new, that if you go back to this point, which is, this is October of 2023. So it's probably right here, this point. Yep. So then we walk forward, then you're going to have an increase. Walk back here. Things are great. Now, notice the anomalies. Keep in mind, too, that Mentor, it's deterministic. So it can't inflate or deflate the number of anomalies that it's going to find. So if these anomalies, these issues that it's finding here existed back here, it would still report them. So something was going on with the code up to this point in about October of 2023, where things were pretty stable. Things were pretty good, right? I mean, you can see the Mentor score here, and there's some dips below 800, but you can see that it's not in like a terrible state. But then something happens. So once we get to October of 2023 and we move forward, we see that something is going on, like increasing. So the number of anomalies that it had total across the entire source code was, and this is across 310,000 lines of code, a total of 56 anomalies. Then we jump forward 5 months, and we have more than doubled the number of anomalies. And then we step forward again, and we have, so this was plus 73 new anomalies. This next step forward, which is 3 months, so this is March of 2024, this is June of 2024, we've now doubled the number of anomalies from the last quarter. Again, Mentor's deterministic. So if these issues existed before, Mentor would have found them. There's no model change here. It's finding new things. These are just like the things that it would have found, right? And so then things cool off a little bit. It's only plus 43. Things do start to get fixed a little bit here. That's good. That's fantastic. But then they jump again in a massive way. So I went back and I took a look at the anomalies. All right. And I want to just walk through this with you very quickly. All I want you to do really is just focus on the critical anomalies that Mentor has found starting in October of 2023. And you can see that there's maybe, let's say there's like a dozen of these issues. And you can also tell that like these, so you can see the number system. Remember the first number is the unique anomaly, and the second number is the instance. So you can tell that Mentor is basically saying all four of these anomalies, these are semantically equivalent. That's why the second number changes, but the first number is the same. And you can kind of tell that, like, you can see that this is current.element type and this one's child element type, but like the structure is basically identical. It's just like the syntax is changing, right? You get a good sense of this. But you can see there's not that many issues, and some of them are a little short, which is great. Some of them are a little long. Like we can scroll over here and you can see that they're like a little long, but it's not something that's like too crazy. This one I think is maybe the longest anomaly that we found. And I think we could look at this and say, yeah, this is a little bit complicated as a control expression, but it's not like it's that bad, right? I mean, I think we've all seen worse. Okay, so this is us in October of 2023. Now let's step forward just one time index. All right, now we're at March of 2024. Okay, now watch this again. I'm going to go back in time, one time step. Now forward. Back, forward, back, forward, back, forward. There's a whole bunch of new ones that pop up. In particular, the one that is very concerning to me is this 243, 0, and 1. And the reason why this is concerning is, first of all, this jumps to the top of the list with Mentor. Okay? And the way that it's ordered, this is rank ordered by severity. So while all of these are of critical priority, the ones at the top are the highest in the criticality. Basically, this is saying the ones at the top, these are the worst ones. So you should fix this one before you fix this one. And you can kind of look at this and get a sense of like how they're quite different. So this is the lowest of the critical anomalies. This doesn't even look, to be honest, too bad. I mean, I probably wouldn't embed these literals, and I could see how Mentor would be like, you could get rid of this first param and just have it be all based off of ID. So once you know that ID is not null, it's just ID dot this dot. So just eliminate that redundancy of reference, and these literals and these strings, you probably don't want to embed them, but this isn't like super awful. Okay, now we go to the top one. This is the highest of the critical issues that Mentor's found. And you compare what we were just looking at with this. We looked at this very briefly in the last episode. This is like an order of magnitude or more worse than what we were just looking at. Immediately, I can look at this and I don't even know what this is doing. This other code that we were looking at over here, I can tell you what this is doing. This is just checking for essentially some equivalence. It's making sure that this ID thing is not null, and then it's checking for equivalence on these values. And if it is, then it's going to do something. And if it's not, then it's like going to continue. It's very straightforward. This other thing, I look at this and I can't make that same observation. I have no idea what this code is doing. This would take me a long time to dissect. And on top of that, even Mentor is like, okay, this is pretty complicated. The given JavaScript code is in an if statement with multiple conditions and nested expressions. Let's break it down step by step. It's going to spend the next 4 paragraphs trying to understand this. And the truth is, I think that it's probably doing this in a very abbreviated fashion. And then we'll go ahead and try to rewrite this. And you can even see just by the difference in, like, here's Mentor's revised version of this, right? Just look at the code size. And now let's go back to this last one and let's see what Mentor's revision looks like. Okay, so this actually didn't work exactly as I had hoped. This code is actually pretty long. I think mostly because it's creating this new function, which is actually pretty cool. Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure I do it this way, but so that's one solution. Yeah, so this next solution is much shorter, right? It's still doing essentially this function for this expression, but you can see that it's pretty simple. It's just like a few constants that are capturing like the Boolean state. That's just my quick scan of this. It's just quickly breaking down that expression into these different elements, and these are all compounded on each other in in sequence. So you can see like this first one is generated and the second one is based off of the outcome of this first one plus some other things. And this next one here is based on the outcome of this former one plus some other things, right? They're compounding, they're iterative. And so this is not very complicated in my mind. Now we go back to this guy again. And what we can see is that, first, this is not necessarily doing this a simple compounding of things. There's lots of more complexity just in the expressions. This one looks like a little bit simpler. This one actually looks more complicated, I think. And yeah, this last one looks even more complicated than I think maybe the other ones. And you can see too, like there's some wacky stuff going on here. Like this is doing a bitwise and assignment, and then a bitwise or assignment. Like, and look at this. Like, here's some more bitwise and analysis for inequivalence or inequality. There's just some, complicated stuff going on. And this code is not only new to this release, somebody thought it was a good idea to copy paste this. Think about this for a second. Like my goal is not to beat anybody up in particular. So whoever did this, I'm not trying to single them out. I'm just trying to ask just a general question here of think about the implications here. First of all, you have this expression that is crazy complicated. This is coming from Goju, who, like, I teach this topic. I'm telling you, like, this is very complicated. This other case, this is not very complicated. I understand this in a second. This, I still don't understand this. Somebody thought that it was a good idea to not only write this once, but then to copy paste it and do it somewhere else. And then on top of that, that was let through. That was actually like, that got through code review. And again, this code did not exist in the prior version, right? So let's go back in time. This is October 2023. It's not there. It does not exist. There's no 243. Now there's a 243, and there's two of them. And then as we move forward, so this is March of 2024. I'm going to take one more step forward. This is June of 2024. This list is getting long-ish. And here are the two that we saw before. They still exist. And now there's some other quite curious ones. Okay. And then we're going to step forward again. Okay. We'll step forward again. And now we're in September of 2024. Again, look at the copy paste that's going on here. This is clear copy. Like this, for any seasoned developer, this is a huge red flag to me. That it goes back to what Linus is saying. This is not rocket science, what Mentor is doing here. It's a little bit more advanced than a simple regular expression, but I think any seasoned developer, if this was my code base and I saw that this was being introduced, I would be talking with the engineers that wrote this code, and they would be refactoring this code right now. Whether or not we keep in a single instance of this or this is not up for debate, but we are not going to have 6 of these. We're not going to have 6 identical control expressions. that are, sorry, they're not identical. Let me back this up. You have 4 that are identical, then you have 2 that are identical, and then you have 6 that are identical. This 363 0 to 5. This is amateur hour. This is not great. And keep in mind, this is React Native. This is not like a toy project where this code doesn't matter. Like supposedly 1 billion devices are running React Native daily. We should care. We should really care. And so I don't know what exactly is going on at wow, look at this. Like so I'm not an expert in JavaScript. So I don't know if this not one has some special meaning in JavaScript, but the inversion of a literal feels like you know what the answer is. I don't know why you would invert the literal rather than just using whatever the inversion of that literal is. So for example, in C++, if you did like not 1, I think the result is 0. Or it's just like false. So I would just use like false. And so again, I could be misunderstanding something about this JavaScript. That's entirely possible. But if I'm not, then this would be a change. But then on top of that, doing this 6 times. And this code was just introduced. Like this is a stepping back in time. This is a stepping forward in time. So this just got integrated. This is new code that somebody wrote. And then again, so it feels like maybe the code review process is just not at the same level of rigor and care as it was before. But something I think is going on with React Native, and we should all, I think, be a little bit concerned. My hope is that I think GTT's reach is starting to get like somewhat large, and hopefully someone from React Native is watching this. If you guys are, please reach out to us. We will give you free access to Mentor. You can go in and you can work with us to get at least these copy pasted issues resolved. So there's just a single instance of this, and then we can figure out like a better strategy on having you guys maybe use Mentor in your CI/CD pipeline, so you're not introducing like 124 new anomalies every quarter, right? Like that's literally what happened from December 2024 to March 2025. It's 124 new anomalies that were introduced. And this isn't a one-off, right? You can see that it's something is going on over here. Yeah. Anyway, cool. I think we've gone down some crazy rabbit holes. Sometimes I get a little more fiery. It's Saturday night. I don't know. Maybe I just needed to vent a little bit. So my apologies if I came off a little too strong there. I blame it on too much caffeine or me being super chill with my little neck cooler thing. But hopefully the points that we talked about are not lost. Is that one, this higher order bit is that AI is really, it's just another form of automation. Like Linus is saying, this is nothing new. We've been doing this for centuries, and it's cool and it's awesome. But these AI systems are not going to replace software developers. Like that's completely unrealistic. Software development is wildly complicated, and the truth is we need all the help we can get. Software systems we're constantly behind schedule. We constantly are introducing lots of issues in our code, as can be seen right here on a system that supposedly a large number of the world is using. Look at this, 122,000 stars. This has been forked 25,000 times. It's used over 2 million times, just based on whatever this containerization thing is. I don't know what this means. So this is not newbie code, and this kind of stuff is going on. So we need AI to help us with our automation, but having this mindset that the AI revolution is somehow going to make humans not have any value in software creation, I think is complete nonsense. And I think it's largely intellectually dishonest. And I absolutely agree with Linus. And I wish legacy media would stop with the hype and instead just sort of tell the truth that it's cool tech. It's going to make us more productive. It's going to increase the quality, and we should start using it. Yes, that headline is not nearly as salacious as saying AI is going to replace all the developers in the world. But if you do this enough, then you will likely lose the trust of all the people, and they won't believe you anymore. They will literally stop going to your news source as something that they trust, and they're going to instead get their news from places like Goju Tech Talk, or Aspen Gold, as people are. It's happening, right? And so hopefully some of those folks might be watching this. And I'm saying this, again, I'm not trying to talk about like large-scale corruption. I'm more just trying to be the one, hopefully, to share an honest perspective to raise all boats in the event that somehow this message is not being relayed to legacy media. This is a problem. And if you guys continue going the way that you're going, you're probably going to go down the path of what people are seeing in the game journalists, as the game journalists venues are just shutting down left and right. Why? Because they're no longer relevant and people can't trust what they're saying. And so they don't get their news on games from those sites anymore. And this may seem like very anecdotally tangential, from games media to like actual tech media or world news media. But in some sense, it's all the same, right? It's just the transmission of information. What is the topic of information? Well, that changes from venue to venue. But ultimately, it's just the transmission of information from some producer source to a consumer source. And if the producer source can no longer be trusted, it doesn't really matter what the domain is. What matters is that they've lost their integrity, and then the people that are consuming that will no longer consume it from that producer. Like, again, this is just very simple, like macroeconomic stuff that you don't even have to look at this from an economic perspective. Computer science talks about this in producer-consumer types of algorithms. Anyway, so that's the first piece. The second piece is we as a community, I think, need to figure out a way to get open source in a better state. And I'm not sure exactly how to do this, right? And I'm just being honest here, is we've tried to set things up to where Mentor is free for all open source developers. And some people are using it for free, right? We have people in the Linux Foundation that are using it, and we have all the repos in Cloud Native Computing Foundation covered by Mentor. And we're even doing this for repos that are potentially outside of the scope of LF or the CNCF or other things, like things that are in like Apache or other types of, GNU distributions, things of that nature. But we really do need, I think, more of a holistic approach for open source. especially to keep things like this from happening. Like this is just really started. Like this part of the reason why this is a bit shocking is you're seeing this live, right? When we first started tracking React Native, it was back around here, and these issues didn't really exist. You could see that it was just doing fantastic. And now, like, I don't know where this is coming from. Maybe this is part of the AI systems. I think there is a good chance that the AIs are generating this, and that's one of our strategies with Merly and Mentor, is to try to assist some of the code gen systems to improve their fidelity by using the Mentor system to augment and improve the quality of their code, but also to help humans, right? Like Linus is saying, humans, I'm a prime example of this. I wrote this code, and this got into the actual production source of Notica. So even people that have a lot of background in writing high quality code, we can still make mistakes. So using these AI tools or other advances in automation to improve the quality, I think, is paramount, especially as software becomes more and more ubiquitous. On that note, for those of you that are deeply interested, I think that there was an open letter from the chief security officer from Chase that talks about how the software supply chain is in a very dubious state, and it's getting worse with code gen AI systems. And I think that he's not wrong. And so this is an open problem that we should all, I think, as a community, start thinking about and figure out how we can get in front of, because this isn't just about React Native. And if you think that it is, all we have to do is just look around and we can see it's not just React Native, right? Like, what is going on over here? It's not just OpenSSL. It's happening. And I'm not trying to be an alarmist, because that's not, like, guys, this is happening. Like, what is going on here, right? We are devolving in quality of software in areas that we should not be devolving, especially in open source. And this is going to create so much technical debt that we likely are not going to be able to get out of the way of this tsunami if we don't start working together to fix this now as a community. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna adjourn. For all of you that actually listened to this rant for the last 100 minutes, thank you. I don't know how we got here. It wasn't actually my plan to get here. But now that we are here, I do think that this is something we should put our heads together on. And those of you that are really missionaries, like myself and the rest of the Merly folks, please reach out. That we really care about open source, and Mentor is free for all open source developers, all open source projects. We will give you access to it. You can download it. We'll give you unlimited licenses to work on things like this. And we'll also give you access to the services that we are running on our own cloud. So if you don't want to download it to your personal machines, we'll give you access that way. But let's work together to get in front of these things, because as you can see, this is not a one-off. That we're just looking at a few of these repos, and it's hitting us in a pretty serious way. I feel like there was one other that I wanted to look at. But maybe somebody removed it. I thought we had visual code in here. And that was also in like not a super great state. Anyway, that's all I got for tonight. Thanks, everybody. I guess the last comment is, if you haven't checked out Andor, I just started watching season 2 today, kind of working while I was watching it. But I do have to say, oh, the doggy's holding hands with me right now. It's the cutest thing. Hey, doggy, you want to come up here and tell everybody hi? He knows we're wrapping it up, so he's getting like excited. Yeah. Oh, here he is. Okay. Good boys. But yeah, so I started watching Andor season 2 today, and for those of you that have watched season 1 or you're interested, I strongly recommend getting to episode 1 of season 2. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I want to say that the first 10 minutes of episode 1 of season 2 is pure cinema. I mean, some of the most incredible storytelling that I've seen in a TV show in a long time. I won't say anything else, and literally it's all you have to do is just the first 10 minutes. You'll get to the point that I'm talking about, and I think you'll see. So I'd love to hear your comments in the feedback section. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll maybe talking to you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Okay.